And no matter who you are, no matter what level you are, no matter what success you have, you should have a coach, period. And you should have somebody who's pushing you, who's challenging you, and you've given them that authority to do it.
What's up, everybody? Cashflow Chris here. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Flip Guy Interviews. Today we have Nathan Brooks out of Kansas City, Missouri. So Nathan is the co-founder and CEO of Bridge Turnkey Investments. Bridge is focused on renovating more than 120 houses in 2019 and providing those turnkey rentals for investors all over the U.S. and internationally. So Bridge has a retail division, Bridge Home Teams, and they also have a wholesale division, Mission Home Buyers, which they have a goal of 80 wholesale deals in 2019. Finally, they have a brand new Meetup, Bridge Real Estate Investing Group. They started in January. They already have over 1,500 people in their Facebook group, and over 150 people plan on being at their event tonight. Nathan is also an active buy and hold investor, but when he's not investing, Nathan loves to spend time hanging out with his beautiful wife and 2 children. And also, I love his hobbies. His hobbies are travel, running his tractor, and MMA. Welcome to the show, Nathan. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. So we got the little brief intro, but why don't you take us back to the beginning? How did you get involved in real estate?
So I got involved in real estate back early, mid 2000s. And actually, the first day I bought a house, I bought 2. After overhearing a conversation with somebody literally in a restaurant that I didn't have any context with. And so, from that moment, I'd already been thinking about real estate, but I didn't really understand like anything about it. And so if you can screw up one thing, I screwed up, basically everything in the midst of this, whether it was, the construction, hiring, the bank we'd used, and anything. And so over the course of a couple of years, we did a number of deals, none of them very well, and culminated with the implosion of the downturn of our, economy in the, 09, 10, whatever. And through bankruptcy, and really kind of feeling the pain and defeat of going through that, and then having to really make decisions about like, hey, what am I going to do? Am I going to learn the lessons in this? Is my wife going to be, for it? And are we going to be in it together to get back after real estate, learning those lessons? Or are we going to kind of, call it quits and not get back into it? And it was very clear to me which choice it was, and more unclear for my wife to work through that painful conversation and painful experience. Very thankful that
Wow. So you went all the way. So you started in before the crash. You were doing okay deals, and then the crash happened, and you totally lost everything. But
Yep.
You told me that you were able to get back in it. So it sounds to me like you have a supportive wife and family.
I do. I'm thankful for her willingness to be a part of that, to support me and have the faith that we can figure it out. And also just kind of that resilience and perseverance of actually going through something like that and detaching the emotion and the fear and the pain that's associated with it. And also recognizing the opportunity in the midst of that failure and the lessons too, right? So being able to suss out the lessons and learn from them. So, I was thankful for her, and I was thankful for the opportunity to just get back into it and make the decision, make the personal decision and commitment to get back after it.
Why didn't you just go get a job?
Well, I hated that idea. And, I more and more, feel unemployable, and I really just I didn't like the idea of someone else controlling my destiny. And I didn't like someone else getting to, put a cap, whether it's on my ability or my learning or my income or my, my job, my responsibility. And so, I'd rather be in control of that And, not to say that if worst came to worst, that I would go get a job. Of course, if it's putting food on my table, I would figure it out. But, I felt that my superpower, my abilities were best in building something that was not just of value for, our clients and investors for the turnkey company, but, the staff that we employ. And, we have almost 10 full-time staff people now. And, also just for the life and legacy of my family, and to be able to really build something of significance and that I can be proud of. So it was very clear which direction to go.
That's very good. Yeah, me too. I knew, we were down here, but I knew there was only one way to go, and I knew real
That's
estate
it.
was the way.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it. And it takes a lot of courage.
for sure. So you got back in the game, you got back on the horse and started doing a few more flips and stuff like that. But it wasn't until, I believe, 2015 when you launched your company. So tell me about ramping up to that stage, and then tell me about when you met your partner, when you decided to go big time.
Yep. So, 2012 was the first time I bought a house, post bankruptcy. And I had actually found this person. His name's Rob, who's been a lifelong mentor since then. And he finally funded my first deal post bankruptcy. It was like 50%, loan to value, and, whatever. I can't remember what interest rate. I'm sure it was a good one for him anyway. But, we slowly but surely did a couple deals and did a couple JV deals. I somehow managed to, start writing some blogs for Bigger Pockets. I got on the podcast, did some more deals, did some JV deals. And then, so fast forward, starting to have some success, build some rentals as well. But, really in 2015, I met my partner, and he and I just really hit it off. And he brought a lot of the things from a personality and from skill set that I did not bring to the table. And so we really found an opportunity to work together where I could help bring in business and develop the kind of that culture side, develop that, business opportunity side, but he could also have a pulse on the details, which I just really did not do a good job on. So it's been a game changer.
So you kind of found the yin to your yang.
Yeah. The yin to my yang. And also, here, the honest truth is I didn't even necessarily have clarity on where the holes in my game were. And so, through that process was both, painful for both he and I too, where, hey, I'm Nathan Brooks. People, see me on Bigger Pockets or whatever else it was. And so, I had glaring weaknesses too, that I did not really have clarity on what they were. And especially like in that detail, that visionary personality like mine, we tend to, once we're clear on what it looks like, we're like, hey, it's done, everybody knows, let's go do it, or it's already done. It's completed. And, that integrator, that detail personality is like, whoa, Nathan, let's hold on a second. What you just said is like 6 months worth of work, and it's going to take 5 people to figure out them. And we have 100 processes to build. And, what are the data points that we need to track? So, all of a sudden you could actually have somebody who says, okay, hold on. I see your vision, Nathan, but hold on, slow down a second. Let's make sure that we actually have all the details and plan in place that we can go see this thing actually be successful.
Now, 10 employees, that means you need to have some structure in place. Is there any type of business books or business systems that you like to use?
Yeah, we definitely love both the book E-Myth as well as the book Traction. And we also hired a business coach, so that really made a huge difference. And, being able to just see it structurally. So like, for instance, through Traction, understanding what your quarterly rocks were, what is your year goal, what is your 3-year, picture, what's your 5-year or 10-year big, hairy, audacious goal, and laying those out, and then having that long view, but then also really having that short-term view that's going to move the needle, this week, this month, this quarter, that gets the outcome that you're looking for. So we've spent both a lot of time on development of processes. So it's clear like what the team's actually responsible to do, what are the processes and the tasks associated with those processes. So then we can really track what's happening. And then also the leadership component of our team, and making sure that we're not just setting somebody up to be unsuccessful by just leaving them out there. We're mentoring them, we're coaching them, we're leading them, and we're making sure that it's not just the giving of leadership, but it's the taking of leadership, and then having the autonomy to actually go and run with it.
That's huge. So you say you have a coach. I think that's something that a lot of newbie investors will come into the game, and they'll be they'll see Nathan Brooks, he's doing all these deals. What has having a coach done for your business?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive. And I also, I coach students as well, and having a coach it's just, there's nothing like that experience, because they've been there, they can see the problem, they're not in the problem like you are. And no matter who you are, no matter what level you are, no matter what success you have, you should have a coach, period. And you should have somebody who's pushing you, who's challenging you, and you've given them that authority to do it. So for us, it was literally night and day difference having somebody to come in and help us work through problems, come and work through clarity of opportunity, and really leaving with this sense of excitement, and having clarity on that bigger picture, where in my seat.
I love it. So as CEO, what are some of the main things that you're responsible for? What are your big rocks?
Yeah. So my big rocks, well, one of them I made this year was, the goal of doing, 50 podcasts. So it's like, how can I help, tell the story, connect with people like you, like-minded, amazing real estate investors all over the country who are getting after it, and we can talk about it, share about our mutual experiences. So not only can you and I each take away something from these conversations, but then it's something that helps your business. It's something that helps my business. And so that's one. Another is, connecting on with like-minded investors that we don't know. So like, what are the opportunities we have from a marketing perspective and big picture perspective? And like, who are those relationships we need to know? And it's not just necessarily 1-to-1, but where can I be 5-to-1, 10-to-1, 100-to-1, where I can use the leverage of that seat, that experience, and that title to make big changes. And then also the cultural driver in our organization. And another thing that I've learned, and after hiring a business coach, Sharper Solutions, they're amazing, was the change was understanding that the CEO seat is the one that's responsible for culture. And if you don't like the culture that's in your organization, it's your fault. And so we've worked very hard at understanding what our core values are. And actually just this past week, literally had every person on my staff at my house. I gave a core values speech and talked about it. And our core values, are unique to me and unique to our company. And it doesn't mean that the core values have to match up in whatever yours are, Chris, or whatever, anybody's are in their business, but it has to match to you. And then you have to make those decisions on the people that you have in your organization, hiring, firing, giving bonuses and all that stuff around those core values. So that's been a huge lesson in that influencing and that cultivating of culture in your organization.
Can you rattle off your core values?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's leadership, generosity, integrity, and drive. Those are our 4 core values.
Awesome. That is amazing. I love that. Leverage. You talked about leverage. What are some things that you like to use for leverage, be it people or systems? And then, what are some real life examples of what you're doing to help scale your business?
Okay. So, real life examples of leverage. So first of all, one of the things that I think I'm going to go off to the side of that conversation real quick and say, there's so many great tech tools and there's so many great, fancy widgets and whatever out there. But the key lesson, I think, is that you don't actually start with the widget. You don't start with the tech. You actually start with the problem. And so one of the pieces of leverage is making sure that you actually understand what the problem is first. Because I think a lot of times we throw bodies at problems, we throw tech at problems, but we don't actually solve the problem. And so, using your unique abilities to actually dig into the problem, suss out the problem, ask questions that other people who are closer to those problems, so there's a huge leverage point for me where I can ask questions that I'm not as close to the problem as somebody else might be. And then having also the openness of mind and listening, as even if you're sitting in whatever seat of leadership, if you're not listening to your frontline people who are doing those jobs, you're missing out on the opportunity to learn and change. So that's one. Another one would definitely be like, for instance, we started our Meetup. And so, I had a name in Kansas City. I had, we had the opportunity to attract people, but also creating the right culture and the right connections and contexts for it. So our principles, we leveraged the relationship by saying, here's our principles. And in the Meetup was connecting, learning, helping others, and taking action. And so that naturally resounds with a lot of people, right? And so the leverage in that point was saying, okay, well, there's something out there people are looking for. And there's already the opportunity, there's already the demand, there's already the desire. So let's put it in a way that's palatable, that actually speaks to people and actually delivers the result that they want. So there's another leverage point. And then, I think the last has been our Facebook Lives, man. Or doing podcasts, right? And so you can connect to such a diverse community, and you can connect with people who, may find you, or people who share what you have going on. So I think there's a number of points you can leverage.
Beautiful. I love it. Very, very good points. Thanks for that. I want to talk about your Meetup, but first of all, I wanted to get a little bit into your business.
Okay. Yeah.
So you got some big goals. It looks like you guys are looking to flip about 10 homes a year, and then you're also looking to turnkey about 10 homes a year.
120 homes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, a month.
A month.
Yes,
a month. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So 120 houses that you're going to flip. So what does your flip team look like?
So we have a construction division. So we have somebody who makes sure that I'll actually start on the sales and acquisition. So we have a director of sales and acquisition. So he's responsible for anybody that's buying and selling anything on our team. So we have somebody who's, actually actively buying, whether it's MLS, wholesale, whatever. We also have an acquisition specialist, and we also have a full-time realtor who we just brought on as well. So we're diversifying in that retail side of things, who's literally, buying mom and dad's house, or, you want to go out and buy your own personal house, that kind of thing. So,
okay. So now hold on one second.
Okay.
So you have a team of 3 or 4 people sourcing deals for you, bringing leads in.
Yep.
Who is allowed to pull the trigger?
So our director of, or our sales and acquisitions manager, between him and our in-house construction person, are allowed to pull the trigger. So I don't often see the deals unless there's something hairy on it that they're not sure, like, is this a problem? So I am not the day-to-day decision maker on those deals. They are. So we made a very clear buy box. Like, this is exactly the prototype house. This is exactly, the typical square footage. These are the metrics we're looking at, whether it's, the cap rates for the buyers, or our return on investment from our investment, or the cost of construction to the return on investment. So they can look at that and understand it, and make the call.
Okay, beautiful. So acquisitions, not your problem. Keep going.
Not my problem.
Tell
Yeah.
me more about your team.
Okay. So on the construction side, we have somebody who, like I said, so he goes out once it's an identifiable deal. Like, okay, does this look like, this is the opportunity? So he'll walk it. He'll put together, like, hey, is this the right construction? Do we have, the general idea of what, is this a deal, go or no go? So he'll talk with our acquisitions person, and so then make sure, hey, okay, great, lock it up. And from there, we will bring in, or he'll put together our scope of work, our selection sheet. So it has all of the, here's the colors, here's the tile, here's the grout, here's the, carpet, floor, hardwood color, or whatever. So he builds out that scope of work and pairs the property, or not property manager, pairs the contractor with with that project. And then they launch it from there. So it's launched and it gets handed off to our foreman, our project manager in the field. So he's actually running around, making sure the contractor, okay, you're on schedule, no issues, everything looks good, we're on budget, is there a change order or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we actually go through and do an internal quality audit with somebody on my team as well. He's our maintenance and quality person. And so he'll actually walk it with our project manager and just make sure that, hey, everything looks good and it's tight before we actually inspect it and bring that third party inspector in.
Okay. What is the typical deal like? Do you guys deal in really heavy duty fix and flips, or do you run the gamut? How does that work?
It's pretty consistent. So we very, consistently put in between 28,000, 32,000 per rehab. And, it's that 1,000 square foot, 1,200 square foot, rental house. And, typically rents right around a 1%. So, $100,000 house, $1,000 rent. So it's pretty consistent. I think this is the biggest, or one of the biggest areas of opportunity for growth within our company too, is, like I said earlier, it's easy to buy houses. It's much, much harder to renovate them. And so, doing it at scale, having enough of the right people, contractors wise, and then also having the leadership to make sure that we are scaling it appropriately. And we could do a lot more houses, in the coming years. And by the way, I mean, it's our start of our fourth year of business. So we did 34 and 16, 74 and 17, almost 118, and now looking to do 120 plus and in 19 plus another 100 or, 80 wholesales. So basically doubling our business from last year is the target. So,
I love that. And I don't know your business, but I would bet that you're making more as well, because, as you get better, not only are you able to do more deals, you're able to do better deals.
Well, we are able to do better deals. It's also just knowing what not to buy sometimes is, important. And I think, early on we would just buy more, we would say no less, I should say. And so getting better at saying no is really important. It's so vital. And so, being able to run that construction, have the outcome that you want, have it in the great position that you want, and then really delivering that high quality product that we're known for, and we expect that from ourselves, man, that makes all the difference.
So you had mentioned that you do have a higher quality than your typical turnkey.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about your turnkey business. Who are you targeting, and what are you trying to offer them?
Okay, great. Yeah. So in our turnkey business, we are focused on having the highest level of product, just like if you were to go buy a retail, flip house on the MLS and live in it. So, we approach it with the big picture of, if it doesn't have a 10-year useful life or more, we fix it or replace it. So that's roof, windows, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, anything. So if it's even questionable, we're including it, or we're not buying the house. So that's number one. And then number two is we also back that up with when the client's looking at the property or the potential property, we're already giving them that scope of work. So we actually give them that so that they know what we did. We give them the inspection report that we've done. So there's a third party already completed, and there's an XLS, with every item on there, however few or many that there are. And then we say, here was the issue, here's what we did on that issue, and here's a picture of the repair. So that's included. A lease is included. And then we also offer a 12-month warranty on top of it for every item, for everything that we put in that scope of work. So it's, we really try to cover it, not just from the front end, but to the back end too, of those capital expenditures and issues that, like, hey, you want to invest with us? We're going to set this up and make sure that it's a successful investment for you as a client.
That's great. And that's a great way to get repeat customers.
100%. Yeah. And they know that, and I tell our clients too, it's like, listen, we are not perfect. We're going to screw stuff up. There may be issues. So it's not about whether there's issues or not. It's whether what we do. And, looking back at that core value conversation we had, leadership and integrity are both in that. And so we have to have the leadership to take action and making sure that we're solving the problems for those clients, and that everybody on our team feels that, it's not just me that, I feel like, oh gosh, we need to take care of them, but everybody on that team feels that need to make sure we're taking care of that client. And then, the integrity to do what we say we're going to do.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay, so let's move into your meetup. So you started writing for Bigger Pockets a few years ago, correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay, so I'm sure that has, put a little bit of a spotlight on you. So tell us a little bit about how, I guess, social media and, being able to use your name and your credibility to help grow this type of a meetup group, how that's helped. And because 100 or 1,500 in your group and 150 per meeting, that's pretty impressive. Not a lot of people are getting those kind of numbers. So tell us your secret.
Well, I when I have ideas, I become obsessed. So there's the first one. But this one started, we put the meetup together early December. I created that Facebook page, I think December 4th. And so we've literally seen from December 4th to today, almost 1,600 people in that group. I think it's like 1,560 or something like that. And so, the secret's been, really in interacting and connecting with the biggest players in our market and in other markets, and saying, hey, I'm not looking to exclude people. I'm actually looking to include the biggest and the best. And so that was really kind of where I started. And, I always loved the Bruce Springsteen, he had the biggest and baddest band, and he had the top players, and, some of the musicians or some of the people who own businesses, were afraid of people who are these high caliber performers. And for me, I know, because I've learned this the hard way, and I've learned it and I've seen it in the real, when you have the biggest and best people, it only pushes you to be better. And so we also put a focus on not just like people who are our partners. We call them partners and mentors, not sponsors. So I don't want just a sponsor. I don't want you to just have some big flag and, you're selling something. I wanted it to be of value. And so when we talked about those 4 principles of connecting, learning, helping others, and taking action. So when you show up to this live event tonight, we will literally have tables set up, not that say like, come buy my stuff, but it's like, okay, you show up, Chris, and you're like, hey, I need help scaling my construction. I'm going to send you to the construction table that has multiple construction professionals who can help, or you're like, hey, I have a new flip project. Great. There's, 5 contractors right there. They're amazing. We've vetted them. We've worked with them. We know who they are. So we've helped both sides, and it's not the sale of something, it's the help of something. And, I've been obsessed with the Go Giver book now for a couple months. And, if you talk about the amount of value that you give is directly or in proportionate with the value in monetary you receive, and not in a selfish way, by the way. I'm sure, some people think about it in that way, but it can't be the selfishness. It has to be the actual, giving that you don't expect something in return. And so I wanted to take that approach. My team wanted to take that approach, and you can see it clearly in our meetup. And I'm going to share these numbers with our meetup tonight, but we have, like I said, 1,500 and some odd people, 1,400, almost, I think it's 1,460 of those people are active in the last 28 days. And there's over 10,500 interactions in the last 28 days. That just started, right? So it tells you that people are hearing that, they're getting that message, and that we're teeing it up in a way that they feel like this is the community. And by the way, when you do it right, other people sell it for you. So, we've had so many shares of those events, and literally like 10 minutes before we started this, somebody who I don't even know posted the hottest new meetup coming, in Kansas City, come tonight. It's so amazing, blah, 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 and I'm just like, man, this is what happens, because people get excited and they're attracted to something that's real and it's authentic and it speaks to them. And so, I just tried to start it from the beginning, and not be so controlling and obsessed that it's the Nathan show, because we give it to our city, right? We give it to our community. We give it to the people who are online, and that's what happens.
Yeah, that's a fantastic mindset to have. It's amazing how closed-minded so many people in our business are. I don't know if you've ever played the game Cash Flow, but I love playing the game Cash Flow. And when we always like to play with two different groups, right? So I'll go in with some people that I don't know. I'll play with a group of people that I don't know, and everybody has their guard up. Even though it's a board game, everybody thinks that you're trying to screw them over in life, right?
Right.
And so very few of us get out of the rat race. Very few of us do well. Then in another circumstance, I'll play a game with a lot of my friends. People who know, first of all, they know the game and they know me. They like me, trust me.
Right.
When that happens, every single deal is potentially my deal. Every one of my deals I'm going to put out, as a whole, we can do so much more, and everybody can be successful instead of, everybody trying to get their own little success. Let's all just have a ton of success,
100%, man. And that, it's so interesting when you have that mentality. And by the way, I have not played this game, but I've written it down. This is the board game from Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I love that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I've read it many times. And that was one of the foundational things in my real estate obsession, I could call it. But I think that, people, you grow up in a certain experience, and to use that book as the example, right? So you have the parent who's the entrepreneur who is building a business and has those problems. And then you have somebody who goes to school, and, I'm college educated, barely. and I grew up with parents who worked very hard and who were college educated and worked jobs that were very difficult for a long time. And I knew which path I wanted. And, and I think that when you start to look at it and you're like, okay, well, here's my opportunity. I certainly can't get there by myself. Now I could step over a bunch of people, or I could work with a bunch of people. And, I know for me, I like to sleep at night. I like the feeling of success with having that common bond and that common, desire to see mutual success. And there's always more to gain out of working with people and helping people, and sometimes giving away. Obviously there's a certain extremes that giving away everything, obviously, that, you never help yourself. But you can't live that mentality, and it'll eat you alive too, because then you're always fearful. You always feel that people are going to, take something that's yours, rather than realizing that it's everybody's opportunity.
Oh man, beautiful. I love it. So you talked about The Go-Giver. Why don't you tell us a couple other books that have really resonated with you? Maybe what's one of your all-time favorites, and then what's one that you've read recently?
I'm sitting on my desk, and I have, books all over, but, one of the ones, it's a newer book, but it's just absolutely rocked my world, is Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink. And if you haven't read his second book, him and Leif, I'm sure Leif Babin, the co-author, is always like, man, nobody ever mentions me. So there you go, Leif. But the book is incredible. It is incredible about leadership, and they go through basically a war story, business principle, war story principle, and then business application. And it is just a phenomenal book. So from leadership standpoint, one of the ones, well, actually there's two that I'd say from like a mindset and negotiation. So there's one, Unlimited Power, Tony Robbins, is a phenomenal book, as well as Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss. I love that book. I'm actually reading that, Chris Voss book with my team right now. We're on pace to do 4 books a year together as a whole staff. So we do leadership lunch and literally sit, have a meal together, hang out, and read and talk and grow as a team. So it's pretty cool. I could go on and on. I have so many. There's so many informative ones. And, I think the other cool part about books is that they hit you at a certain time in your life. And so, reading a book one time is wonderful, but reading a book and understanding its moment in time for you, and the takeaway of, just those one or two things, and then going back to visit it at another point is pretty cool. So even if you just read, any of those books or many others, it's definitely cool to come back and visit them.
That's a great point. My business partner recently re-listened to E-Myth.
So good.
I mean, that's one that everybody's read it, right? That's one of the first books that you have to read. But
Yep.
I think you were perfectly right. So with books, and then along with seminars or presentations, I like to do them over and over again, because I wasn't ready to hear the message 2 years ago.
Yep.
So that when I started out in business, I was a realtor, and this guy, Rick Gihai out of San Jose, taught this amazing course every single year. And every year I learned something new. He was teaching out of the handbook. He was teaching the exact same course, but every year I learned something new, because the previous year I just wasn't prepared to hear it.
Yep. It's so true. And I've trained martial arts now for a couple of years, and I really enjoy it. And, when you look at like jujitsu, for instance, or you look at striking, and, even from a fundamental level, people are like, oh, let's throw in a punch. It's not that big of a deal. But well, guess what? There's a lot of mechanics that are involved with throwing the punch correctly. And, it's so interesting, and you see it because, hey, you're trying not to get punched in the face if you're in, kickboxing class. And, so it goes from, do I even understand what to do, to seeing like, oh, here's my opportunity, I missed it, to then being in the moment and actually being able to execute it. And I think as entrepreneurs and business owners, we have so many of those places that are opportunities that we may not even realize they are yet, or we're seeing, but we can't take action on them yet, or we are now in the moment to take action, and to be humble enough and recognize we're always the teacher, we're always the student, both. And that we're never too afraid, never too smart, never not humble enough to shut up and listen and be a student.
Especially when it comes to MMA. I know a lot of real estate investors who get their asses whooped in an MMA class, including me.
Yeah. Well, you know what, man? It's a blessing though. And one of the things I love about MMA classes, and what do you train, by the way?
No. I'm saying I would if
Oh, yeah.
I got out there. No, I think it's a great thing, and it has a large mental aspect to it. No,
Huge. It's a huge mental aspect, and it's also one of those things where, we as entrepreneurs, investors, we get some level of a success, and we have this, oh gosh, Nathan Brooks, I know his name, or, Chris, we know you're crushing it in multiple aspects of your business. But guess what? I walk into the gym, and I am not Nathan Brooks, real estate investor. I am Nathan Brooks, white belt. And, so the humbling lessons never stop. And there's never opportunities, so like last night I did 5 live rounds. So that's, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes of live rounds with people, and 2 of which I was better than, and 3 of which I was not better than. And, I definitely, left the gym last night, and I'm like, man, I got my butt kicked. And, but I then go back and learn those lessons, and I have training partners who are there to help me. And that's the same thing, right? It's the same thing in real estate. It's the same thing in business. It's the same thing in your job. It's the same thing in all of those things where you can come in and say, okay, I can learn today. I can help today. What is the strategic mission? Where are the tactical things I need to do? And kind of knowing where you are and having that what is it? EQ and IQ, right? We have the emotional intelligence and we have the mental intelligence, and pairing all of that stuff together.
that is very, very true, man. That is pure gold content. I'm happy that we went through that.
Me too.
All right. Well, it looks like we're running to the end of the show now. So you're going to have 150 people attending your meeting tonight. Why don't you tell people where to find you?
Yeah, man. And thanks again for having me on. It's been a blast having the conversation, and I enjoy the way you structure questions too. It's been a lot of fun back and forth. So you can find us a couple different places. You can find me personally on Facebook. That's kind of the most active of the socials I'm on Facebook. And then so you can connect with our company, either Bridge Turnkey Investments on Facebook or bridgeturnkey.com. So that's for the turnkey company. And then Bridge Meetup, which we don't even have the website up yet, but it is bridgemeetup.com. Somehow that wasn't taken. or some buyer of URLs. But so Bridge Meetup, but you can also find us on Facebook, Bridge Real Estate Investing Meetup, and come join the community there. And of course, if you're in the Kansas City area, it's the third Tuesday of every month. We already have 3/4 of the speakers lined out for the year. And so we talked about goals and vision planning last month. We're talking about like nitty gritty and the details. We have 7 people on our panel tonight that are literally doing 100+ million a year in deals. And and then we have a UFC fighter next month talking about mindset, callousing the mind, being prepared mentally, courage. And we're really trying to cover all the basis of people, not just tactically, not just, understanding how to do deals, but also the mindset, the leadership, the development of your human potential. So it's pretty exciting.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's it, guys. As you can see, Nathan Brooks is the real deal. So if you are in the Kansas City market, or if you need a great quality turnkey product, definitely connect him. So thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.